Police suspect a 13-year-old boy shot and killed Aguilar. The 32-year-old was visiting family in Little Village when prosecutors say he became the innocent victim of a drive-by shooting. Now sources tell WGN that police think a 13-year-old boy fired that fatal shot. A police spokesman says detectives presented their case to prosecutors, who have asked them to gather more evidence before charges are filed. Yesterday, 19-year-old Armando Lopez faced a judge. He's charged in accused of being the one behind the wheel during that
bullets in the Chatham neighborhood on the city's south side. This comes just 24 hours after another child, 6-year-old Aliyah Shell, was shot while playing on the front porch of her Little Village home.
We cannot lose another child to gun violence. Unfortunate, if they stay silent, this is going to continue to happen.
Chicago's South Lawndale sits at the crossroads of culture and conflict, rooted in a proud Mexican-American community anchored by the 26th Street corridor. The neighborhood has also carried a decades-long burden of gang rivalry, most visibly between Latin Kings People Nation and 2-6 or Satan Disciples Folk Nation. That history frames a series of cases that show how quickly street feuds spill into public spaces and family life. 17. A 2019 case tied to a slain nurse, an attack that injured babies at a McDonald's drive-thru, and a New Year's Day 2024 attempted deletion tied to a repeat offender. Alongside these tragedies are large-scale enforcement efforts, from RICO takedowns of Latin Kings leadership to fast arrests after high-profile shootings and periodic civil unrest that has left both residents and officers injured. Taken together, Little Village's story is not just about arrests and court dockets. It's about a neighborhood fighting to protect children, reclaim parks and sidewalks, and push back against cycles of retaliation that have persisted since the people-folk split of the late 1970s.
6-year-old Aliyah Shell was shot and while playing on the front porch of her Little Village home.
We cannot lose another child to gun violence. Unfortunate, if they stay silent, this is going to continue to happen.
Community activist Andrew Holmes says residents must speak up and give police information. Holmes often spends his weekends at crime scenes. He attributes much of the violence to gang activity involving retaliation. 18-year-old Juan Barraza and a 16-year-old boy were charged with Aliyah Shell's murder. Police say both teens are affiliated with gangs.
Retaliation needs to be left in the hands of the Chicago Police Department. If they work with the Chicago Police Department and identify the shooters, that's all we need.
Juan Barraza drove up to the Little Village home and opened fire in March of 2012. They struck 6-year-old Aliyah Shell in front of her family. Both were sentenced to more than 50 years behind bars.
On March 17, 2012, a warm Saturday afternoon in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood turned into tragedy when 6-year-old Aliyah Shell was gunned down while sitting on her family's front porch. Leah, a kindergartner who loved the color purple, was enjoying the day with her mother and younger siblings. She had no connection to gangs, no ties to the streets. She was simply an innocent child caught in the middle of a long-running gang war that plagued the neighborhood. According to prosecutors, Juan Barraza and Luis Hernandez, both members of the Latin Kings, set out that afternoon with a deadly mission to delete a rival from the 26th Street gang. Hernandez later admitted to authorities that he was targeting rival members, boasting about being a 26K. The two men drove a pickup truck through the 3100 block of South Springfield Avenue. As they approached Aliyah's home, Hernandez leaned out of the passenger window, raised a gun, and shouted gang taunts. TSK, short for 26K. What's up, bro? Then, in a hail of bullets, Hernandez fired into the porch. But instead of hitting his intended target, the shot struck Aliyah. She was hit multiple times in the abdomen. Her mother frantically rushed her to safety, but the little girl died shortly after at Mount Sinai Medical Center. What makes this case even more horrifying is Hernandez's chilling confession. He admitted that he saw Aliyah and another small child on the porch before opening fire, yet he pulled the trigger anyway. The shooting shocked the Little Village community. already weary of relentless gang violence. At Aliyah's funeral, hundreds gathered, many wearing purple, her favorite color, as a symbol of remembrance and unity. It would take years before justice was served. In 2022, a decade after the crime, both Barraza and Hernandez were convicted for Aliyah's death. During the trial, Aliyah's family and childhood friends filled the courtroom, also wearing purple shirts to honor her memory. Prosecutors highlighted not only the brutality of the act, but also the heartlessness of Hernandez's own admission that he knowingly fired at a porch where children were sitting. The jury found Juan Barraza guilty, while Judge Stanley Sachs separately convicted Luis Hernandez, sealing the fate of both men for their roles in the demise.
CBS 2 News starts right now with breaking news.
And that breaking news, a nurse. He was on his way from his sister's house and tried to save his own life after being shot last night when he was outside his sister's home. And we'll bring you more information as we
Police suspect a 13-year-old boy pulled the trigger in that deadly shooting.
WGN first reported this morning that police suspect a 13-year-old boy shot and Aguilar. The 32-year-old was visiting family in Little Village when prosecutors say he became the innocent victim of a drive-by shooting. Now sources tell WGN that police think a 13-year-old boy fired that fatal shot. A police spokesman says detectives presented their case to prosecutors, who have asked them to gather more evidence before charges are filed. Yesterday, 19-year-old Armando Lopez faced a judge. He's charged accused of being the one behind the wheel during that drive-by shooting. Family members say they've known the 13-year-old may have been involved since the first week of Frank's murder. While it pains them, they still want justice.
A 19-year-old has been charged in the drive-by demise of a nurse in Little Village last month. Armando Lopez faces one count of first-degree deletion in the November 12th slaying of Frank Aguilar, a registered nurse who was gunned down as he returned home in the 3700 block of West 32nd Street after doing laundry. Chicago police said the case shocked the neighborhood. Here was a man working hard to get ahead in life, Captain Gil Calderon told reporters. Unfortunately, that promising life was cut short when gang violence robbed Chicago of another person with a bright future. Investigators initially recovered only 2 shell casings and had no eyewitnesses. Detectives later obtained private security footage that captured the shooting and showed a dark Jeep Commander, but no license plate. Days after the attack, officers located a similar vehicle allegedly driven by Lopez, who reportedly fled before being stopped and taken into custody. Police believe Lopez was the driver and say they feel very strongly they have identified the gunman, who remains at large as prosecutors and detectives work to strengthen the case for charges. Authorities have not established a definitive motive, but Deputy Chief Brendan Deenihan said the shooting appears to be a case of mistaken identity amid rival gang tensions. Lopez was denied bond during a court appearance Thursday. Aguilar, who graduated with honors from Malcolm X College and St. Xavier University and worked at Misericordia Home, is remembered by family as selfless and compassionate.
I lost my princess. She was the reason why I got up every morning.
Heartbreaking words from the mother of 8-year-old Melissa Ortega, read by the family's pastor. The case capturing national attention. And today, police announced 2 arrests in the case.
The gunfire, the result of an apparent gang shooting, and now a 16-year-old and another man are charged with. The teen's name is not being released. Investigators used surveillance video to track down the car used in the shooting. That car was found Monday with the gun that police say was used to kill Ortega still inside.
2 people have been charged in the demise of 8-year-old Melissa Ortega, who was fatally shot Saturday in Little Village. Chicago police said a 16-year-old suspected gunman and the alleged getaway driver, identified as Xavier Guzman, were taken into custody in separate arrests. At a news conference, Superintendent David Brown said he informed Melissa's mother that investigators had identified those responsible. Through tears, Melissa's mother addressed the gunman directly, saying their family came to the United States seeking the American dreams. Melissa was walking with her mother near 26th Street and Pulaski Road when a shooter emerged from an alley and opened fire on an intended target, a reputed gang member. A volley of rounds struck Melissa twice in the head and wounded the man in the back. Officers responding to a shot spotter alert found Melissa at the intersection. She was rushed to Stroger Hospital and pronounced dead less than 2 hours later. The wounded man, who has multiple prior arrests and 2 felony convictions, was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in critical condition. Investigators later stopped a Toyota Camry believed to be the getaway vehicle. Police said Guzman was behind the wheel and a loaded gun was recovered from the driver's side door. Ballistic testing matched the weapon to shell casings and bullets from the scene. 2 alleged members of the Satan Disciples Street Gang have been ordered held without bail in the demise of David Lopez in Little Village, prosecutors said. David Chavez and Xavier Encarnacion each face 1 count of first-degree deletion in connection with the shooting in an alley in the 2800 block of West 23rd Street. According to prosecutors, surveillance video shows Chavez and Encarnacion walking with 2 other men from Satan Disciples territory into Latin Kings territory, where they approached Lopez as he stood behind a retractable steel gate in a backyard. Prosecutors said Chavez lured Lopez to the gate by asking for a cigarette while Encarnacion flashed Latin Kings hand signs and addressed Lopez as King, even attempting a King handshake. When another man tried to shake Lopez's hand, an exchange followed. Encarnacion allegedly reached through the gate and shoved Lopez, and the other man then opened fire, striking Lopez in the face and several more times in the chest after he fell, authorities said. Chavez and the gunman fled into a nearby gangway in the 2600 block of West 23rd Place, according to prosecutors. An officer who saw the pair run into a residence identified them as suspects after hearing radio descriptions, prompting a brief standoff that ended with Chavez's arrest when he attempted to escape through an alley. Encarnacion was arrested Monday after investigators matched him through video and other evidence, prosecutors said. Portions of the shooting footage briefly circulated on social media Sunday night before being removed. Chicago's Little Village neighborhood was once again shaken by gang violence when 2 young men allegedly targeted a rival in a brazen attack that left innocent children injured. On a Monday afternoon around noon, a family had pulled into the McDonald's drive-thru at 2612 South Kedzie Avenue. Inside the minivan were 2 parents in the front seats and 3 children in the back. Prosecutors say Jonathan Gonzalez and Luis Olvera, both documented members of the Latin Kings, spotted the children's father in the passenger seat. The 26-year-old man, who prosecutors identified as a member of a rival gang, became the target of their rage. Gonzalez and an accomplice who has not yet been charged approached the vehicle, shouting "King Love" and insults meant to provoke the father. But the man refused to engage, not wanting to escalate the situation with his children sitting just feet away. That restraint didn't stop the attack. Prosecutors allege Gonzalez walked to a nearby fire hydrant, removed its heavy metal caps, and hurled them into the family's minivan. The caps shattered the rear window, sending shards of glass flying into the children's faces. As the terrified mother tried to drive away, she reportedly yelled out that there were babies in the car. Instead of backing off, Gonzalez responded with profanity, shouting, "FUB," before launching another cap. At that moment, Luis Olvera joined the attack, prosecutors said, throwing rocks at the van to add to the chaos. The family sped away from the drive-thru and quickly flagged down an ambulance. Paramedics treated the injured children, the toddler, for multiple facial cuts and bruising, and the infant for lacerations caused by the broken glass. Thankfully, both children survived their injuries. Meanwhile, police swarmed the area and soon found Gonzalez and Olvera hiding in a gangway. Judge Peggy Chiampas, visibly angry, scolded the young defendants. "Hiding in a gangway now, but you went up to a car in a McDonald's drive-thru, allegedly at noon." The charges reflect the seriousness of the attack. Gonzalez, who prosecutors say is already on juvenile parole for robbery, was charged with aggravated battery to a child and criminal damage to property. One of the most tragic examples came on January 25, 2016, when David Casper Martinez, a reputed member of the 2-6 gang, was gunned down in broad daylight. His teenage friend, also targeted, survived but was left scarred by the attack. According to Cook County prosecutors, the shooting unfolded just after 5 in the 3000 block of South Kedvale Avenue. Martinez and a 17-year-old boy were walking together when they crossed paths with a car carrying Lamar Baker, a known Latin Kings member, and 2 companions. Both sides instantly recognized each other as rivals, and gang signs were exchanged in the street, a silent but powerful spark that ignited the deadly confrontation. Instead of leaving the area, Baker and his crew circled the block and pulled into a nearby alley. Prosecutors say Baker got out of the car, crouched behind some bushes at the alley's edge, and lay in wait for Martinez and his friend to pass. When the 2 young men approached, Baker jumped out, pointed his gun, and demanded, "What you want?" Martinez and the 17-year-old tried to run, but Baker opened fire. Martinez was struck in the back of the head and collapsed, mortally wounded. His friend, glancing back, saw Martinez bleeding on the pavement before sprinting toward a nearby fire station for help. As the teen ran, Baker fired several more rounds, striking him in the back. Despite his injuries, he managed to reach the fire station, where firefighters rushed him to Mount Sinai Hospital. His condition was later stabilized, though the physical and emotional scars remain. Martinez, a lifelong Little Village resident, was pronounced dead at the scene. Known in the neighborhood by his nickname Casper, his death devastated family and friends, another young life lost to the gang wars that have long gripped the community. For more than a year, the case remained unsolved. Then, in July 2016, Baker allegedly admitted to a police officer that he had shot someone nicknamed Casper because Martinez was a rival gang member. That statement, along with witness testimony and evidence, led prosecutors to charge him with first-degree deletion for Martinez's death and attempted first-degree deletion for the shooting of the teenage boy. 2 alleged members of the Satan Disciples street gang have been ordered held without bail in the demise of David Lopez in Little Village, prosecutors said. David Chavez and Xavier Encarnacion each face 1 count of first-degree deletion in connection with the shooting in an alley in the 2800 block of West 23rd Street. According to prosecutors, surveillance video shows Chavez and Encarnacion walking with 2 other men from Satan Disciples territory into Latin Kings territory, where they approached Lopez as he stood behind a retractable steel gate in a backyard. Prosecutors said Chavez lured Lopez to the gate by asking for a cigarette, while Encarnacion flashed Latin Kings hand signs and addressed Lopez as King, even attempting a King handshake. When another man tried to shake Lopez's hand, an exchange followed. Encarnacion allegedly reached through the gate and shoved Lopez, and the other man then opened fire, striking Lopez in the face and several more times in the chest after he fell, authorities said. Chavez and the gunman fled into a nearby gangway in the 2600 block of West 23rd Place, according to prosecutors. An officer who saw the pair run into a residence identified them as suspects after hearing radio descriptions. prompting a brief standoff that ended with Chavez's arrest when he attempted to escape through an alley. Encarnacion was arrested Monday after investigators matched him through video and other evidence, prosecutors said. Portions of the shooting footage briefly circulated on social media Sunday night before being removed. Juan Barraza, the Latin King's regional for the 26th Street Little Village region, was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Prosecutors said that in 2008 he effectively commanded more than 1,000 members, enforcing rules that drove armed weekend bust-outs, retaliatory shootings, and the disposal of murder weapons. At sentencing, the court also found him responsible for conspiracy to commit murder. Evidence included undercover recordings of drug sales and testimony from former members. He must serve at least 85% of the term, and his convictions were upheld by the 7th Circuit in 2016. The case capped a broader federal campaign against the 26th Street hierarchy that also put national leader Agustin Corona Zambrano and Supreme Regional Inca Vicente D.K. Garcia 40 years behind bars, while cooperating Cicero section leader Needle Issa received nearly 17 years. Chicago's Little Village neighborhood has long been a flashpoint for violent gang activity, and in early 2024, prosecutors say a young man with a violent record once again brought gunfire to its streets. On January 1, 2024, just hours into the new year, Angelo Velez allegedly tried to delete another man in the 3000 block of South Kildare Avenue. According to prosecutors, the victim was sitting in a car outside his home when Velez pulled up alongside him in a 2015 Kia Soul with several passengers inside. Witnesses reported that Velez shouted at the man through gang signs and then opened fire with a gold handgun. The victim was struck multiple times in the chest, arm, neck, and chin, leaving him critically wounded. Miraculously, he survived the attack. Police quickly launched a search for the shooter, and not long after, Cicero officers spotted the Kia Soul linked to the crime. They pulled the vehicle over and found Velez behind the wheel. Inside, investigators recovered the gold handgun prosecutors say was used in the shooting. Two passengers who had been with Velez at the time identified him as the gunman, strengthening the case against him. Velez was charged with attempted deletion, and Cook County Judge Susana Ortiz ordered him detained, citing his gang affiliation and violent history as clear threats to public safety. What makes this case even more troubling is Velez's recent criminal record. On August 31, 2022, he was arrested after allegedly headbutting a Chicago police officer in the face as officers tried to arrest him for throwing bricks at a Chicago Water Department truck. Less than 2 weeks later, police arrested him again, this time for allegedly possessing a firearm. Yet despite these arrests, the consequences were minimal. On October 5, 2023, prosecutors dropped the firearm case on the same day Velez pleaded guilty to the battery of a peace officer. Judge Maria Curiaco Cecil sentenced him to 24 months of probation and 50 hours of community service instead of prison time. Just 3 months later, Velez was accused of opening fire on New Year's Day, nearly deleting another man. Now, Velez faces attempted deletion charges that could carry decades in prison if he is convicted. In late February 2021, a confrontation in Chicago's Lawn neighborhood turned deadly over something as simple but symbolically dangerous as a haircut. 16-year-old Julian Castillo, a known member of the 2-6 gang, was visiting a friend in the 6300 block of South Richmond Street when he was confronted by rivals. Prosecutors say Sergio Rodriguez, a 20-year-old Latin king, noticed a man's haircut and accused it of being 2-6 style. Rodriguez began questioning Castillo about his affiliation, and when the teenager confirmed he was indeed 2-6, Rodriguez punched him repeatedly while shouting about his hatred for the gang and blaming them for the death of his friend. Castillo tried to run for his life, bolting out of the house and down the street. But another Latin king, 21-year-old Jesus Moro, gave chase. Moro pursued him for more than a block before pulling out a handgun and opening fire. Castillo collapsed after being struck several times and was later pronounced dead at Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn. The brazen attack, prosecutors revealed, was captured on surveillance video. Even after the shooting, the violence did not stop. Witnesses say Moro returned to the house laughing, still holding the weapon. Meanwhile, Rodriguez ran to the victim and punched him again as he struggled to get up, before hiding in the trunk of a Chevy Malibu parked nearby. Police arrested Moro inside the residence and found Rodriguez in the car trunk. The gun used in Castillo's demise was also recovered. The case quickly drew outrage when it was revealed that Moro should not have been free at all. Just months earlier, in July 2020, Chicago police cameras recorded him firing a handgun outside John Spry Elementary School in Little Village. He was arrested and initially held on $100,000 bail, but Judge Leroy Martin Jr. later cut that in half, allowing Moro to go home after posting just a $5,000 deposit bond. Moro already had a history of similar offenses, including a 2017 case where he fired at a passing car near the same school. In both incidents, he admitted to police that he had been testing his gun. Rodriguez, too, was no stranger to the courts. He previously served an 18-month prison sentence for reckless discharge of a firearm in 2019. Both men were charged with first-degree murder for Castillo's death, and both were ordered held without bail following their arrests. The case highlighted a grim reality in Chicago's ongoing struggle with gangs, guns, and bail reform. Moro was the 8th person in the city that year to kill or shoot someone while out on bail for another serious felony. Prosecutors pointed to the case as an example of how dangerous offenders continue to threaten neighborhoods when allowed back on the streets. For the family of Julian Castillo, a haircut became the flashpoint for a tragedy that exposed not only the deadly rivalries between gangs like the Latin Kings and 2-6, but also the flaws in a system meant to protect the community from repeat violence. A 27-year-old man was wounded in a drive-by shooting in Little Village on Chicago's southwest side, according to police. The victim was standing in the 2600 block of West 23rd Place when someone in a white Honda opened fire before fleeing the scene. He was struck in the knee and taken to Mount Sinai Hospital, where he was listed in good condition. Moments after the attack, responding officers stopped the vehicle and arrested 3 suspects in the 7400 block of South Parnell Avenue. Police identified them as 18-year-old Steven Montano, 22-year-old Rodrigo Ramirez, and a 15-year-old boy. Investigators believe the white Honda was involved in the shooting. Charges were approved soon after the arrests. The juvenile faces felony counts of aggravated battery with a firearm and aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. Ramirez faces felony counts of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and fleeing or attempting to elude police. Montano was charged with a misdemeanor count of resisting a peace officer. All 3 were scheduled to appear in bond court Saturday afternoon, and the investigation remains active. 2 19-year-olds have been charged in the Jan 26th demise of 15-year-old Miguel Navarette in Little Village, authorities said. Martin Miranda, of the 2500 block of South Trumbull Avenue, and Andres Guerra, of the 2700 block of South Lombard Avenue in Cicero, each face 1 count of first-degree deletion. Prosecutors said Navarette was standing near a car in the 4100 block of West 30th Street when a dark-colored SUV pulled up. Witnesses identified Guerra as the driver who rolled down his window and shouted 2-6, a reference to a neighborhood gang. When Navarette replied, a backseat passenger identified by witnesses as Miranda opened the door, produced a sawed-off shotgun, and shot Navarette. Miranda then allegedly pointed the weapon toward 2 adults and 2 children, ages 3 and 7, seated in a nearby car, before turning back and firing 2 more shots at the teen, prosecutors said. Navarette, of the 2800 block of South Karlov Avenue, was pronounced dead at the scene. A police source said Navarette and the 2 suspects belonged to rival gangs. According to prosecutors and police reports, Miranda identified himself as a Latin Kings member and told investigators the shooting was retaliation for the killing of another Latin King. After the gunfire, Guerra sped away and struck a pedestrian with the SUV, prosecutors said. Witnesses later identified both Guerra and Miranda, who were taken into custody this week. Miranda, nicknamed Scrappy in police reports, appeared in bond court Thursday wearing a Cubs sweatshirt and khaki pants. Judge Adam Bourgeois Jr. ordered him held without bail. Guerra appeared Wednesday and was ordered held on $1 million bond. A 19-year-old man nicknamed Sniper was ordered held without bail after prosecutors said he shot a father in front of the man's 20-month-old daughter during a gang initiation in Little Village. Esteban Sotelo is charged with attempted deletion, aggravated battery with discharge of a firearm, and unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. According to Assistant State's Attorney Heather Kent, Sotelo and a 14-year-old accomplice agreed to target a rival Satan Disciples member as part of the juvenile's initiation into the Latin Kings. In the 2700 block of West 24th Street, the 29-year-old victim was loading his toddler into a car seat when Sotelo approached, asked, "What's up?" and then opened fire. The father turned to shield his child before being shot 6 times in the legs, back, and neck. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital and remained in intensive care Sunday with a bullet lodged in the nasal cavity below his eye. No one else was hurt. Police arrested Sotelo and the juvenile shortly after the shooting. Prosecutors said multiple witnesses identified Sotelo as the gunman, and Sotelo allegedly admitted the shooting to police and an assistant state's attorney, further stating he stashed the revolver in a bag of mulch where officers later recovered it. Court records note Sotelo is on probation for a prior narcotics conviction. He is listed in documents as an admitted gang member. The 14-year-old was charged in juvenile court with aggravated battery discharge of a firearm. Judge James Brown ordered Sotelo of the 2100 block of South Fairfield Avenue held without bail pending further proceedings. All defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. A chaotic confrontation in Little Village left 8 Chicago police officers injured and 11 people facing charges after officers moved to disperse a large crowd in the 2500 block of South Albany Avenue. As police worked to clear the street, one officer was pinned between vehicles when a driver allegedly accelerated toward officers, prompting an officer to fire. No one was struck by gunfire. In the melee that followed, 8 officers were hurt, including one who suffered a broken hand and another struck in the face by a glass bottle before the scene was brought under control. 6 juveniles and 5 adults were taken into custody. 3 of the juveniles were 14, with charges ranging from aggravated battery to a police officer to resisting arrest and reckless conduct, according to reports. These cases underscore the hard truths of Little Village: long-standing borders, quick escalations, and the devastating ripple effects on bystanders and families. Yet they also show a community that refuses to surrender, neighbors who share video with detectives, parents who speak out, faith leaders and merchants who hold events on 26th Street, and investigators who tie shell casings to cars, make arrests, and bring conspiracy cases against shot callers. Real safety will come from both sides of the ledger. Credible prevention for youth and relentless accountability for trigger pullers. As prosecutions move forward, everyone named but not convicted remains presumed innocent. And every victim deserves more than a headline. They deserve a neighborhood where walking home, sitting on a porch, or waiting in a drive-thru isn't a life or death calculation.